So today I am talking about The Liar's Key, Book 2 of the Red Queen War by Mark Lawrence, and another brilliant book, another fantastic book, and picks up right off where we left Book 1, Prince of Fools, and it's hard to not overshare, so I try and not spoil the plot in that. Even though these are older books, it doesn't sort of matter. I try not to spoil too much of the plots and stuff in my reviews, because I want to encourage people to read, and I've told you everything that happens, there's no point reading the book. I hate when people do that in movies and stories and things like that. It's like, oh, you got to watch this show, or you got to read this book because blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, well, do I need to do it now because you've told me? But doing these reviews in a series of books, it does become tricky, because things have happened at the end of the book that I didn't really talk about, and now they're relevant. So that's my little ramble on. I'm going to have to spoil some stuff in the first book. And as Prince Jalan and Snorri are back, they're sort of trapped in the north. Jalan's making the absolute most of being sort of stuck up there. He's taken over a tavern. He's got 3 young ladies on the go that he's enjoying the time of, which unfortunately for him brings him undone a little bit. So when Snorri decides it's time to go, Jalan is a little bit keen, not just to get back to home, because he's not made for the north and the ice and the Viking lands, but also because he's not made for marrying these women that he's enjoyed the cold nights with, who didn't know about each other, which makes matters worse. Yeah, he's not had 3 at a time. He's been playing them off against each other, and so that's where we kick off. Him, Snorri and his clansman Turdugu are the last of their clan. And they've got a key, the Liar's Key, or Loki's Key. So, which is basically a promise of mischief. The key, it'll unlock any door. It can't be taken by force. It has to be given willingly, or it can be tricked out of you. But yeah, so they've got the key, and it can open the key to anywhere. And Snorri, of course, only has one place he wants to go, and that's into the gates of hell to retrieve his wife and his children. So that's basically where the mission's off. It's still tackling that world. The Dead King's still about. There's Sergius the Dreamwave still has a play, and there's other forces that keep popping up and coming out. And yeah, Mark Lawrence just weaves these epic battle scenes, and the humour. I think he's really underrated for his quirky humour and these sort of bastard and these lecherous characters. And Jalan's is a coward by nature, but has berserker rage that occasionally sort of helps him out and helps him obviously win battles and stay alive. But he's a sneak and a liar and a cheat, and that's just who he is. And he's very proud of that. Like, he doesn't hide that, he doesn't deny that, and Mark Lawrence weaves that perfectly, that this is who he is. And so he's very much a reluctant hero. And watching reading some of the moments when that is tested, and he's trying to be the coward, he's trying to be the dodgy one, and it actually leads into heroism. Like, this whole journey, this whole thing is basically Jalan being dragged along very reluctantly, just trying to get out of one thing after another. And when it's time to leave, because they're being chased by the father of one of the daughters that he's been spending a little bit too much time with, it's not an easy trek, but they head back to the Red March and the Red Queen. So But yeah, they're fighting necromancers and the undead are still pursuing. There's other players come into play that are after Loki's key, because why would you not want a key that can open any door, every door? So, it's a very valuable commodity. So they make it back to the Red Queen, or they actually take up some other people along the way. A young boy, Hannon, and Kara, Viola, so a bit of a witch. So they wind up, and they wind up back in the Red Mart, and Jalan basically decides to part ways with Snorri. He's back at home now. He's ready to relax. He's ready to, enjoy life. Of course, if you remember the first book, he got chased out of the Red March by the same thing, sleeping with someone's daughter or someone's sister. He also incurred massive, massive debts, and that just because he's gone off and been a hero, and actually most presume dead, but he's gone off and been a hero, has not erased any of that. And despite the fact that most thought he was dead, has not erased that either. That comes back into play, and it's the same old story, and it's the same lying, lecherous Jalan trying to get out of his way and weaseling out of this stuff. But he does let Snorri take Loki's key and go retrieve it. Of course, once all his former troubles catch up with him very, very quickly upon arriving, he's got to leave again. But this time he gets an offer to go to the banking clans and oversee some stuff there. And when you get to that in the story, just like the brazenness to just do the wrong thing, like he just goes in there with the plan to do the wrong thing and cheat and lie, and never ever comes off the way he would lie. And that's, I think, the funniest part. And watch him do the manipulative and cry foul and try to justify things. But it's not an easy escape either. He, does get caught, and even then, watching him weasel his way out of being caught, and one of the original ladies from the Red March that he slept with is now, betrothed to someone else. So he's got to satisfy that. And they have a confrontation, but there's another factor at play with his debt collectors are trying to drag him back, and the quirkiness and the brilliance of this fight. And then, alright, there's a little bit of a spoiler. He actually clocks someone with a lump of wood while he's not looking, the insulted thing, and then lies about it and said he bested him in the duel because he's a little bit concussed because he just got a bit of wood slammed into his head. And yeah, so then he just lies about it. He just makes it up that, he must have, I must have hit you with the flat of my sword, and he just weasels his way out of it. But he's not stupid. He's like, any moment the guy could touch his head and find a splinter in there, so he knows he has to get away again. Which leads him onto the banking clans and the basically the epitome of money and gold and trading and insider trading, and he discovers that, and yeah, we see more of that like past technology, which is actually more advanced with the clockwork men and things like that. And that's kind of really cool to see how these times of our time, or few years back, well, some of it's a few years back, some of it's sort of nowish, and now this is advanced technology into what they've got, because it is a medieval sort of fantasy story, but it's, the world is reset, which I think, if you read the first series, The Broken Empire, you know this. So watching that, and watching himself swindle his way out of that, but he does have a conscience, and that's where it sort of goes awry in the things, as he's doing trading with paper money, and then he's converting it to coin and carrying around all this gold coin with no intention other than to steal. That's just what he's doing. He's a prince of the Red Marsh, 10th in line to the throne, and he gets a little bit of power and a little bit of opportunity to trade and create something for himself, and he's just blatantly stealing and trying to swindle people out, and doesn't think it's not going to catch up with him, which of course it always does, because that's what fiction is. You know, you want to see them come unstuck, even the good guys to a degree. But he does have a conscience, and that's what lands him in real trouble when he winds up in a debtor's jail, when he realises Snorri and Hannon and Kara have been detained. So he goes in to try and, especially Hannon, he has dreams with not necessarily his, you know, with his dream witches, there's these underlying powers sort of still pulling all the strings of all these little plots from the 2 series together. And so he goes in to rescue Hannon, because he's having these visions about him, and that's when he realises his mistake. And yeah, there's a lot still going on. Like, that's like only halfway through the book, but that's an exciting little plot. And then we sort of wind forward like this. I don't want to give up too much, but it gets pretty hairy in there, fighting necromancers and stuff, and you know, the brutality and that grimdark, that gritty sort of storytelling that Mark Lawrence is an absolute master of. And we've still got a lot of story to go. You still wind forward as they, you know, take the key to Death's Door, and, you know, Snorri to reunite with his family. And there's a moment towards the end where Jalan is just perfect Jalan's, you know. I've read the quote out of the first one, you know, that I'm an honest man, I'm a liar and a thief, but I'll never let anyone down unless, you know, whatever it is. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I actually read it out in the last review. That comes into play in such the best way. And Snorri, who is an honourable man and sees the world through his honourable eyes, and constantly overestimates Jalan, and who is a reluctant hero, as I've said before, somehow often does the right thing with full intentions of doing the wrong thing. And there's a beautiful moment in that where he's trying to do the wrong thing, and he kind of gets suckered in again to doing the right thing. And yeah, that's what I loved about this series, about this book. Absolutely brilliant. You know, the action, the humor, the darkness, that, you know, that gritty narrative, the like complex and checkered characters. You know, I think Snorri's still complex to a degree, but he is that hero. But he's, you know, he's a Viking hero, so he's still brutal and thing, but he's, you know, a good family man, but he'll do anything. But like Jorg, who also pops up a little bit again in this one, and yeah, because the narratives sort of follow it, like run side by side and sort of jump back and forward a little bit, and yeah, so that complex character, you know, he's not a hero, but he does heroic things more out of cowardice and dumb luck than intention. And I love that. I love that kind of writing. I love them complex characters that, you know, that are good but make mistakes, or they're bad and do good things. Mark Lawrence really paints, you know, really brings those characters to life. Absolutely brilliant book. Love these series. I love Mark Lawrence's writing. As soon as I read these books so many years ago, and as stated before, I read them years ago and listening to them again, just to fall in love with that story and the characters, and you know, to do these reviews and talk about it. You know, if I had have known or been doing this many years ago, I think it would have been so much cooler. But here we are. And yeah, as soon as I read these, I was just so hooked in these characters and knew I wanted to read everything Mark Lawrence ever wrote, and cannot praise him highly enough. He's a fantastic writer. And The Liar's Key, Book 2 of the Red Queen Wars, fantastic read. Absolutely brilliant. Happy reading. Subscribe and follow for more.